Because if you can't see it, like even for me at this point in my career, having worked in sports for over 20 years and being used to being the only in the room, or, having to be bold when you are the minority, it wasn't something that occurred to me when they first presented. I'm like, you guys are crazy. And, that's just because no female had done it. And why not? It's not a crazy concept. And if you're qualified, why shouldn't a female be there?
Welcome to the Game of Her Own podcast, a podcast about women who work in sports. I'm your host, Jahaan Blake. After 15 years of working for 3 major league teams, including the Boston Red Sox, Los Angeles Dodgers, and the Chicago Cubs, I discovered the one thing I loved the most was helping women in sports shatter glass ceilings and take their seat at the table. I loved it so much that I made a business out of it. I have the honor of coaching high-performing women in the sports and entertainment industry and supporting them as they go after exactly what they want in their career. So if you are feeling tired of waiting on the sidelines, done being overlooked for promotions, and you're ready to pull ahead of the pack and take your career to the next level, girl, I'm here for it. I also created the Game of Her Own podcast to support you as well. We are here to share the stories of incredible women who work in sports and entertainment. These leaders and trailblazers will inspire you with their success and the lessons they've learned along the way to the top. Ladies, there is nothing like women empowering women. I am so honored you're here.
My next guest, Julie Donaldson, Senior Vice President of Media and Content for the Washington football team, is the first female to be a regular on-air member of an NFL radio broadcast booth. I had to ask her if she feels pressure being the first. You don't want to miss her response and the advice she gives when it comes to being the only and why you shouldn't let it get in your way. Also, she is and always has been a big networker. We talk about the power of networking and why she wasn't afraid to ask for help from people she just met. Listen, I bring this up because I know a lot of you hate networking and also hate the thought of asking for something because you think you have nothing to give in return. If you are nodding your head right now, you are going to love Julie's perspective when it comes to all things networking. All right, friends, you ready? Let's do this.
All right, Julie, welcome to the Game of Her Own podcast. I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks. Glad to be able to be joining you and hopefully have some good conversation coming out.
Yes. Before we dig into all the incredible work that you've been doing your entire career, which is super impressive, take us back in time and tell us when you first fell in love with sports.
Oh, well, I grew up a little bit of a tomboy, I should say. I have 2 sisters. I'm the middle, and I was always competitive for sure. Out of them had to beat and win everything. And then I realized I didn't like being inside. I always wanted to be outdoors, racing the boys, climbing trees, arm wrestling, always finding something to compete at. So I think from an early age, it was just naturally drawn to it. Now, if you ask me what I play, that's a little bit of a different story. I was also allergic to everything outdoors. And so in soccer, it didn't work out very well. Softball didn't work out very well because I would just be a total mess. Chlorine in pools didn't work out, but I've always been very athletic, very active, and just loved the competition, loved the stories, loved those that played the game. And it's just been always a natural fit to my life since a very early age.
I can't believe you were allergic to things and you couldn't play soccer and just being outside. And I grew up playing soccer. So I can't imagine if just being outdoors, I don't know what the allergy was, but just caused me to have a reaction and I couldn't play.
Oh, it was miserable. I mean, I remember going to school and, they'd change when you had PE outside. And if it was in the morning, especially, within 20 minutes, I'm a mess and they'd call my mom and they'd have to send me home. And back then, I don't feel like we had non-drowsy allergy medicine per se. So it always just knocked me out and spent the rest of the day sleeping. It was miserable. They'd count how many times I'd sneezed. My eyes would be, it was terrible. Fortunately, now I load myself up on allergy medicine every day, especially before I go out to practice, because I will still be an absolute mess. But I just don't let it stop my life. So.
Oh, that's crazy. But I love that you were still competitive, still love sports. Talk to us about when you decided you wanted to work in sports. Was that always a thing when you were your childhood?
No. I always knew I wanted to do television. It was kind of which outlet, which facet do I want to go down? News was always a little bit too drab, too heavy. And I even was told that you talk with a smile. How are you going to deliver, bad news when you naturally want to smile and naturally want to be a person that kind of connects on that level with folks? You look at entertainment, it was a little too salacious for me. So sports was just the natural fit. And where I really started with it was just telling the stories behind the players. Who are they outside the stats, outside the numbers? What makes them succeed at that level, be the 1% of the 1%ers, right? Because at that point, they're all athletically gifted, but there's something else that allows them to be those superstars and perform at that kind of professional level, or even collegiate or even high school. I just enjoyed telling the stories. And through that, you learn more about the sports, you kind of fall in love with it. And before you know it, you're in the booth calling games on Sunday.
You just made that sound all so easy.
Right? Just like that, folks.
That's how we do it, guys. That's the end of the podcast. So what was it like trying to get your foot in the door? I mean, listen, sports is competitive, and trying to work in sports is competitive. And then when you add the layer of broadcasting and television and all that, it's even more intense.
So if I think about the very first opportunity I was out of college and I was interning at a local TV station, and they didn't pay for interns then. You just worked for free. And I was, so ambitious. I was working basically a full-time job for no money. And then I was also waiting tables to make money. And I was also modeling. And really, I didn't really care for modeling at all. But they're like, look, you can make X amount of dollars in one day's work. And all I needed to do to pay for my bills was work one day. And it would cover all of my bills because I didn't really have any straight out of college. But I always wanted to do television. And so the modeling agency came with me with this job, and they say, nobody wants this. We're not even going to present it to anybody. We're not going to make any money off of it, but it's doing tosses for a sports show. And it pays $50 show. And we just think that you might care. I said, yes, I'm going to do it. $50. And I remember my first time there, I said, y'all need to pay me more. And so it doubled to $100. So I made $100 a show, which first off taught me to ask for what you want, because otherwise I probably would have still worked for $50 if I told you I was working for free. But it kind of got my foot in the door with sports down in Miami. So I got to do features on, Mike Lowell playing third base, on the enforcer for, the hockey team, on, going out to the Dolphins games and kind of working with those guys and with the NBA and the Miami Heat. So just through that, this world is all about connections and networking as well, and hopefully making the most of your opportunities. So I took what was a $50 job, made the most of the opportunities, and it really just kind of launched my career in this business and got me connected through one person to the next to have, opportunity after opportunity. But those opportunities don't come if you're not maximizing where you're at, right? You're not learning within what you're doing and really asking and pushing for more. Otherwise, you can probably just go by your day job, and that can be fine. And that could be all you do. But I was hungry, I was eager, I was ambitious. I put in the hours, I put in the work, I studied, I wrote down who I met, how I met them, and connected and stay connected with people. And it's still paying off to this day.
Talk a little bit about that, the networking part of it, because it's so easy, right? And from the outside looking in, people might think, well, she's on television. It's different. It's easy for people to see the work that she does, and then for her to move along and move up. But to me, what I'm hearing is you were studying, you were putting in the work, you were writing down everybody you met, and then like networking and nurturing that network. How did you make that a priority?
I guess I've always loved people to begin with. In loving their stories. I'm the girl that gets in the elevator, and by the time you get out, I can tell you everything about the person I was riding in the elevator with. I don't know. It's just something I've always done. Then I went to New York, and it's like, why are you get to the point after a while, you're like, why are you talking to the person sitting next to you? You're on the subway, like, don't talk to people, because I'd be sitting down chatting and carrying on conversations and just fascinated by that. So, I think kind of like at an early age, just from loving people and loving to learn their stories, innately, I probably was building those skills of how to network that I probably wasn't even aware of. And then as you go through, somebody once taught me, said, because you can meet people, but if you're meeting so many, if you don't write down where you met them and what the conversation was about, you can forget, so I would collect the business cards, and I was always write down, like on the business card. Now you probably can just do it in your iPhones, right? Take notes of who you met in that world and say what the conversation was. So when you do reach out to them, you can make it personal and say, hey, I met you here and we had this great conversation. And then it's like, oh, by the way, do you know of anybody looking to hire for this? Or could you put me in connection with somebody that would be able to help me out? And then because it's a personal tie, I think people feel a little bit more obligated to help you out, or at least pass you along, or at least respond. A lot of times you don't even get responses when you're first trying to get going in this business. And all I needed was one opportunity. I think, one of my jobs, I probably went through 10 different references and I might've known the first two, but the ones that kept referring me beyond there, I had no clue who they were, what I was writing down on this piece of paper, but it kept getting the person who was getting it to pay attention to me because of the reference. I said, okay, well, we have to talk with you. And it kept getting passed along. And this one woman, she goes, how do you know, Bob Jones? I was like, I got to be honest with you. I don't. She goes, okay, because it's kind of a little bit of a sketchy reference. She goes, but I felt obligated to talk to you because he referred you. But I thought it was a little weird. And she goes, but I respect the hustle. At the end of the day, I think people respect the hustle. I've been told that so many times. And when I see it in folks that I'm looking to hire now, if they hustle, that's going to be somebody that's probably going to pay out pretty well for you. And if they don't know it, they're going to find a way to learn it. So yeah, I suppose I've been networking my whole life and it will not end. I think this world, sometimes we get so much into our computers and our screens, we forget the personal connection. But that personal connection is going to be the biggest reason you will have success in life.
Yes, I agree. And what I love about this is that you met people, wrote down all the information, what you talked about or how you met them, and then you emailed them and asked them for help. And so often I find that women that come to me say, I feel like I don't want to bother that person. I met them. I don't want to bother them. I don't have anything to offer them right now. So I'm just not going to send them a message. Was that something you feared?
Of what, that I don't have something to offer somebody, or just the fear of reaching out? Because I get that as I have so many different women and men that will reach out to me looking for advice or help. And I say, I'm always going to, because I remember being that young, hungry, ambitious young woman and kind of trying to find my own way. If I could have had somebody help guide me along and offer me advice, how I probably would have been able to advance things much quicker. So I always want to be taking the time out for that, but I might need to be a little bit more strategic and maybe create sessions as opposed to so many one-on-ones because it gets to be a lot at this point.
Yes.
But no, I've never been a fearful person of anything. I've always been a bit bold. I've always been that person who's no problem just speaking up, raising her hand. I always sat in the front row and, didn't mind introducing myself, wasn't ever intimidated by people, walk up to Roger Goodell, hey, talk to him like he's a regular guy. And it's just, the commissioner at the NFL, no big deal, so I've never really had that fear of something. And I think the thing that I learned is you're no worse off if you don't try, right? If you can just, again, you can stay right where you're at and that can be fine, but you can send those emails and you can try and you can reach out. And if they don't respond, what'd you lose? If anything else, they might write you back or refer you to somebody else. And then you're on a path going somewhere that takes you beyond where you could have just been and maybe be satisfied doing with that. I've never been just satisfied with where I'm at. I'm always kind of looking for what's next. What can I work on? What can I accomplish? Where's that next step? If anything, I have to sometimes tell myself stop, it's cool to just chill,
I love that. And I love, I like you respect the hustle. So, and I think a lot of people do when you get those emails. I love when I get them, especially from a freshman in college, young female trying to figure it out in sports. And she just wants to talk to somebody. She probably doesn't have anything that she can share with me or give me a value, but that's not why I'm talking to her. And I feel like that's what networking is all about. At some point, she may have something to give me, but right now that's not what people aren't always looking for something else. It doesn't have to be, it can be one-sided from time to time. It's okay. It's part of the hustle.
It is. And, if you're always looking to learn and grow, there's always whoever you talk to in life, if you're open to it, you'll learn something from them that you can apply and be of value, and I just think I found that as the more people I just talk to, you don't have to be in my industry. There's lessons to be learned from folks. And again, if you enjoy people, there's always good connections to be made, and I try to take the time out to talk to encourage folks because you never know what's going to resonate with somebody. And, the people that did take the time out to kind of talk to me in my life and share things with me, they probably have no clue what of all the different things they said that's going to resonate, because you don't know where they're at, what they're dealing with, what they're insecure about, or what they're trying to say, build up the courage to do something with. And, your one little nugget of something may help somebody make a decision or go a different direction or just encourage them or lift them up, or who knows where it may be applied. But I always say, hey, you lose nothing by asking. So
yes, I agree. One thing I know for sure is it can be exhausting and emotionally draining as you go after what you want in your career. Maybe you're ready for the next level, but you're not sure how to get there. Maybe you're not sure how to use your voice to grow your career, or you just don't feel seen and heard in your organization. And I don't want you to have to go at it alone. It is why I'm putting together a small group of women for the Be Seen and Heard at Work group coaching experience. If you are tired of things just going okay, this group may be for you. If you're ready to use your voice to influence change, speak truth to power, build your brand, and advocate for yourself without feeling like you're bragging, this group is for you. Enrollment opens soon. So in the meantime, I invite you to join the waiting list. Be the first to hear more about the program and also when more spots open up. You probably already know this, but it's worth saying. There is something so powerful about women empowering women, and that's exactly what you'll get in this program. Coaching and accountability from me, and the support and empowerment from other women in this group. If this sounds like the right fit for you, head to the show notes and join the waiting list for the Be Seen and Heard at Work group coaching program. All right, let's get back to the episode. All right, I got off on a networking tangent and kept digging in there. So tell everybody what you do now and who you do it for.
So I am the Senior Vice President of Media and Content for the Washington football team. I've been in this job not even a year, but I have been in the market, in the Washington, D.C. market for now, I guess, almost 11 years, over 10. So I've covered the Washington football team. I worked for NBC Sports Washington for 10 years, covering every team in the area. I'm doing a lot of different stuff for the Olympics as well. But when this job came up and they were looking for somebody to take the position, they said, oh, she knows the team, which I do. She likes the team, which I do. And so here I am. I'm in the booth on game days, and I'm the first female in the NFL to have a full-time position in the radio booth on game days, which kind of blows my mind that that's happening in this day and age of 2020 was the year. Now 2021, they're still probably the only female. And I get to hire my crew, decide what kind of content we want to create with great collaboration from the crew that we work with, and hopefully entertain our fan base and tell some good, compelling, engaging stories. I stay busy.
Yeah, it's a big job, and it's very unique. So do you feel any, and I'm sure you've gotten this question before, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Did you feel any pressure from being the only female or the first female in this sort of role?
You know, when they told me that I would be the first female to have this position, I'm kind of like, oh, like, really? And why are you coming to me for this? Like, why do you guys want to do this? And, you know, they wanted me to do the play-by-play even. And I was like, I know what I know and I know what I don't know. And that's not my specialty. But you know, I can tell you everything about the players. I can tell you what motivates them. And, you know, I understand the game. So hopefully I can be able to bring, you know, what kind of system they want to bring in going up against their opponents and bring some insight into that side. So that's kind of the role that I do. But when they put your name in that conversation, you downplay it, you know, but I will say this, what makes it very cool for me is when I'll get countless upon countless women that will either hit me up on email or, you know, the DMs on Instagram or on Twitter or somewhere that says, you know what, a lot of times I only hear the men's voices. And when I heard a female voice, and it's a consistent voice, it's not just coming and going and giving a, you know, an update on an injury. It's a consistent voice throughout the whole way. It's the leading voice throughout it. They go, wait a second, like that's pretty cool. And that's something I'd like to do. And now I know that I can. Because if you can't see it, like even for me at this point in my career, having worked in sports for over 20 years and being used to being the only in the room or, you know, having to be bold when you are the minority, it wasn't something that occurred to me when they first presented. I'm like, you guys are crazy. And, you know, that's just because no female had done it. And why not? It's not a crazy concept. And if you're qualified, why shouldn't a female be there? So pressure, I suppose, and the pressure for me, though, that I put on myself is to not mess it up, to not to not sound stupid in the booth, you know, that's the pressure. It's not the pressure to be the first and to make sure that hopefully there's many more women that come on my path, but it's to hopefully make sure that I'm offering insight that the fan base wants to hear. That's the pressure I put on myself.
Yes, I know that pressure well. And I remember also when I first started like in sports, gosh, 18 years ago, which is crazy. But I just remember like there was not very many people who looked like me. And I'm talking, you know, women or Black women. And so you just kind of latch on to women who you see doing the thing, right? Like something even close to what you want to do. And I always imagine, gosh, I know I'm not the only one. There's got to be a lot of pressure when it comes to that. So I can see that aspect of it where you're like, I just don't want to screw it up. That's the most important thing.
Yeah, I mean, and there is, and it's funny. I was having this conversation with somebody just about our team president, Jason Wright. He's the first Black team president in the NFL. And like, there's got to be so much pressure on him, not just for this franchise to succeed, but to show that a Black man can do the job. That still gives me chills to think that I don't know if he feels that pressure or not, but that's the way some of the outside society looks at it, is that he's not doing it just for himself and just for the job that he's doing with our franchise to try and get us to a better place, but he's doing it so other teams will say, oh yeah, okay, a Black man can do that. We should hire one too. Like that's just kind of chilling to me, but you don't want to be the one that tries to validate anybody that thinks for some reason they can't, or wants to say, oh, there shouldn't be a woman in the booth. You don't want to be the reason that they can say, oh, we told you she messed up. We told you she didn't know the sport, so I think that's why I put that pressure, is to say, first off, I want to do a good job. I want to be proud of what I'm doing. And I want people to say, like, she's doing a damn good job. And then hopefully if that opens up the doors for people to be more open to have more women in those positions, then let's go for it.
Yes, very well said. Tell us a little bit about what your experience has been like just working, not just with Washington, but working in a male-dominated industry.
Well, like you said, you look around, there's not a lot of women that look like you. And I would agree. I'd look around and I'd see women, but honestly, there weren't a lot of Black women. But, I would be in rooms and I'm the only woman. You're really aware of your surroundings when you realize you're the only, and you can feel very uncomfortable at times, especially if you're in a locker room or you're in a room where you're talking about show ideas and you have something you want to speak up on because you feel like it's a really great idea, and your heart starts racing and your throat gets dry because you're afraid, are all these men in the room going to judge me? Or I want to go and I want to ask Coach a question at the press conference, and you're in a room full of, there may be one or two other women with you, and you have a question and you're a little intimidated to ask it because what if it comes off and it's like, oh, well, that's what a girl question to ask. You learn a lot more, I think, about yourself when you're the only, because you have to. You're much more aware of your strengths, your weaknesses, how you say things, how you come up with ideas. And then you step back and you realize, guess what? They didn't ask perfect questions either. Their ideas weren't anything grander than mine. If you have an idea, somebody else might bring it up as well. And so then you start saying, you know what? Let's not look at this as if I'm the only, let's not put myself in that situation to where I'm that person. Let's just say I'm somebody in the room that has the same good ideas, the same questions, the same thoughts as anybody else that's qualified to be here. And I think you have to kind of approach it that way a little bit. If you think about it that I'm the only female here, you're going to maybe act like the only female there instead of acting like somebody who's a capable, responsible, qualified reporter in the room. It's a lot of mind psychology though. It really is.
It 100% is. It's all mindset. And what you just said is well said. I mean, we can just cut that little portion out and that could be it. Like it's really well said.
And when they hired me for this job, the gentleman that, I was talking with a lot with it, Terry Bateman, he goes, look, we didn't hire you because you're a female. We hired you because you're the most qualified. You're the only person we came after, the only person we wanted, for this job. So don't tell yourself that you're here because you're a female and the franchise needs a female to help them through some of the issues they're going through with mistreating women. That's not why you're here. And, people, and I've even had people say, oh, well, if they thought they brought you in because you're the female, they need the female. Well, you've proved that you belong and you can do the job. And I'm going to be like, thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. But, I do believe, especially when we look back at the job that I'm doing, that I'm very qualified for this job. I'm learning and growing every day to even be better in the role and in the position. And I'm having a heck of a lot of fun. And I don't think that I'm here just because I'm a female at all.
Yes. And I like that you say you're learning and you're growing. You're in, a high power executive, but you're still learning and growing. And that is so important for, I think, everyone who's listening to understand, like, you just don't get to these senior roles and then you're good. Check a box and you don't need to continue to grow and continue to learn. It's continuous. It just doesn't stop.
Actually, like before this, I was meeting, maybe a few meetings before this, but I was meeting with my executive coach today and just kind of understanding. She's like, as a leader, how do you want people to view you? And I'm like, I haven't really thought about that. She's like, okay, well, what are some of the, leadership styles that you have? And I'm like, things that I just haven't necessarily put a lot of thought into or written down. But I do, find that I really do enjoy the administrative part of this job. I do enjoy the leading and kind of helping people grow and putting them in the places that fulfills their passion and their best talents, because I think that's why we're in this business anyways. There's always BS that comes with the job, but if you can have somebody that really caters right to what they're passionate about and they're good at, they're going to so excel at that they're going to bring others with them and even do a better job, and you've better culture and environment with everyone, but it's one of the things too, that, players all want a coach to get better. Coaches even will consult with other coaches to get better. So you should hopefully always have somebody that's helping you always be a better version of yourself, learn something to become better. And so these are all things that I'm, some things that I'm very new at in this job, and I really want to succeed, and I'm looking forward to being that next chapter. And so if whatever I need lessons, I learn valuable lessons every day. I'm like, okay, not going to make that mistake again. It's always a process, right? I hate to use that cliche. It's the journey, not the destination. But for somebody who's always been so ambitious, you always think it's the destination. You forget that the journey is really the cool part.
Yes, so smart. And speaking of the journey and the mistakes that you make along the way, I'm going to steal this question from Tim Ferriss, but do you have a favorite failure?
Oh, wow. I feel like you should have given me time to prep for that one, because I've had quite a few failures. I'll just go with this one because it's something that I think I've dealt with on the bigger picture of my life. A failure. I'm hosting, anchoring a show, and we're doing hockey highlights, and they're probably a minute and a half, and I got lost. And I didn't know what to do, and it was uncomfortable. It was awkward, and my co-anchor didn't really know how to help me either. So it was one of those moments where you're kind of like you feel embarrassed probably for anybody watching me, and everybody else was, and it was just kind of mortifying. And you still have to hold your head high and smile and keep carrying on with the show. And you just want to put your head in the sand and cry, because it's just embarrassing and all of those things that you think you work your butt off to not be. But I didn't grow up knowing hockey. And so, what I learned though through that is, first off, I got with somebody who would sit down and break down and kind of help me out with the hockey highlights, how to simplify it if I got lost, how to say, avoid getting around trying to say names that I don't know, and just kind of learn little nuances on how to be able to, first off, do the task that I was charged with. But what I really learned outside of that too, though, is if you just step back and you just allow yourself to laugh at the moment and say, well, I really kind of got lost in that one, didn't I? Well, y'all watch this highlight and we're going to pick it back up once we get to the final score, kind of a thing, something that just humanizes it. Because I've always put so much pressure on myself to be perfect, to sound perfect, to say the words in the most eloquent way. And it doesn't exist. And if I would have gone a little easier on myself, I think, in life, and been able to laugh at myself and laugh at my mistakes, I think you get through them with much more character, and people are much more forgiving of the mistake. And then you realize, in the grand scheme of things, what's it really matter? Let's look at it big picture. And so I think that, is just one mistake that I had. And I had many mistakes on camera, but I've just learned to be able to kind of, when they happen now, or if I misspeak now, like laugh at myself for it and, move right along. And it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, humanize it. Like you said, like it's just, people are rooting for you. Those of you who are listening and you make a mistake, it's okay. I've made mistakes on this podcast where I was so into someone's words that when she was done, I literally was like, oh, I'm interviewing you. Right. My bad. Okay. We're ready to go. And I left that in the podcast because I was like, I'm human. I make mistakes. It's okay. And no one stopped listening because I did that one thing. And I'm sure no one stopped watching because you did that one thing.
People are rooting against you because some people want to root against you just because you are a female there. They don't like it. They're uncomfortable with it. They don't think you should be there. Well, guess what? Their opinion really shouldn't have any impact on your life. If anything else, it just makes you work harder, do better. And then you just know what voices to listen to. But I have found there's much more support than there is for those rooting against. And the support that I do get is folks say, look, we know people are going to be hard on you, but just know for that, you have so many more people that are rooting for you to crush this, that you've worked hard for this in your career. You deserve this. And that just kind of makes you feel good, because I don't think we celebrate each other enough in life sometimes. I don't think we encourage each other enough sometimes in life. And, they always say, if you don't hear anything, then that's positive, because we're only used to hearing negative feedback. I think sometimes it's good to tell somebody, hey, you did a really great job on that, and offer those words of encouragement and uplifting each other, instead of always just focusing in on those mistakes that drive us to say, you know what, you have to be perfect when we all live in an imperfect world.
Yes, it's almost like, it's being the change you want to see. So there's all those critics out there and they are loud, but we can be louder by just lifting each other up and commenting on people's work and just telling people that, hey, like you said, like you're crushing it, because I know it means a lot. I know it means a lot when I hear from listeners saying something great. And so we should always work to do that and take the time, because it really is, it takes no time at all. Yeah, I agree. All right. How are you feeling about some rapid fire questions?
Oh, okay, let's go for it. I don't feel like I'm always very good at this. I always feel like I'm that girl that's always like, I'd be bad at comedy. I'd be like, I'm like a second or two behind. I'm like, oh, I had a great comeback, but now the moment's passed. So.
I find that hard to believe. I literally have been like, ooh, I got to keep up with Julie. I find that hard to believe.
It's crazy in the booth too, because, you have to be quick because you just don't know who's going to make the play, where your information is going to be applicable, how much time you have to get it out. So it's really challenging me to try and be as quick as I can. So let's go. Let's see what you have.
All right, let's do this. 12 questions. First thing that comes to mind. What is your favorite sports moment?
See, I can't even do this that quick. Favorite sports moment. I will say when the 2008 Celtics won the championship. I was in there covering Kevin Durant, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen. It was such a challenging year of my life, personally, new into town. And man, having the champagne being in the locker room was pretty damn cool.
That's good.
I wasn't very rapid fire. I should be like one word answers.
No one ever follows those rules, especially the first question, because it's like, how do you say your favorite sports moment and then not relive it, right? Like you kind of have to. All right. What is something people always get wrong about you?
I don't know. I mean, maybe people have the perception that I'm high maintenance just because, you're a blonde, you work in sports, we fix our hair, we put on lashes and lip gloss. And honestly, I feel like I can be as cool and easy as they come.
Yes. Yeah. Same here. I'm not blonde, but I do put on lashes and do my hair and do my makeup. And yes, and that is all right. What is one food you wouldn't want to give up?
Sushi. I could probably have that every day.
Yeah, I went through a phase where that's actually really what I had every day. It wasn't good for me. Are you a morning or a night person?
Night. This job is asking me to be a morning person, and it's not happening. No.
Favorite holiday?
Christmas.
What job would you absolutely be horrible at doing?
A teacher.
Oh, all right.
I tell you once, get it. Don't make me tell you twice. I have no patience for that. I already told you. I explained it.
I'm laughing because anyone from my old team at the Cubs, they know I used to say that to them. I will give you the answer once, but you have to write it down or do something, because please don't ask me again. What product would you seriously stockpile if you found out they were going out of business?
Probably a face lotion. I've got this, I think it's SkinCeuticals. I like this face lotion, but especially as I'm getting a little bit older, we got to protect as best as possible. Or it could be my Armani Silk Foundation. Like that makeup is amazing. If you don't know about this, it is the lightest weight for camera, full coverage. I go to the gym and it doesn't even sweat off. It's worth the little extra cash.
You guys can't see me, but my mouth is literally open. Like, what? I'm going to link to that in the show notes, and I'm also going to go check that out.
Armani Silk, the Silk Foundation. I think it's like $60. But yeah, it's like the secret to the stars, and most folks on camera love it.
Noted. I know what I'm doing later. What is your favorite app?
My favorite app. I probably spend the most time on Instagram.
Who's your biggest inspiration in life?
Jesus.
I like that answer. As a child, what did you wish to become when you grew up?
I'm doing it.
Yes. I love it. Finish this sentence. The future of women working in sports is
the norm.
Yes.
Not the exception.
Yes. I love it. Julie, this has been incredible. If someone wanted to get in contact with you, how can they go about doing that?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm Julie Donaldson on Twitter. I'm Julie Donaldson on Instagram. One has an underscore before, one has an underscore after. I don't know. There are other Julie Donaldson. So Julie Donaldson at Julie Donaldson on Twitter underscore. And then I think Insta's the opposite.
We'll get them. They're linked in the show notes. So if you guys want to get in touch, that's how you can do that. Julie, thank you so much for this.
Yeah, glad to be here.
So what did you think of this episode? Do you know another woman who works or is aspiring to work in sports? Would you do me a favor and share this with them? It would mean so much if together we could support and inspire other women on their journey. And let's stay connected. I love meeting and talking to new people. Follow me on Instagram at Jahaan Blake and join the free Game of Her Own community by visiting jahaanblake.com. I can't wait to meet you.